Those who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavine, it does. They need me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, welcome, guys. Welcome. I've got Boots here today. So, as you know, last weekend, it was the Elite Specialization Beta. Oh, well, it's actually kind of through the week. If you guys have been looking at me on Twitch, you already know this. Maybe I mentioned it in a YouTube video too. But a lot of last week, I was actually away, so I missed a good chunk of the beta, which kind of sucks. But for the last day, I did get in. I did a big live stream where I played through and really tried to dig into the various professions. And today, I want to do a bit of a review, a bit of a sort of reflection of what I thought of the 3 specializations based on my a very limited playtime. Unlike the previous beta where I got to really sink in a lot. I wish I had more time on this one, and so I'm kind of looking forward to when it all comes back with the Siege Tale later. And we've got Boots here as well. Sorry, did I intro you?
Yes, you just did.
All right, well, there you go. So we got Boots, who, as I'm under the impression, Boots, you got to play a lot more than me, right?
A little bit more, yeah. I did some streams also, and I played them as well.
So I'm dying to ask you your take on the various professions, and you can kind of round out some of my opinions as well, because some of these, I'll just say first of all, with the one exception of the Vindicator, these elite specializations really felt like they would take a lot longer to really get to grips with.
I think that's accurate. Even the Vindicator, I think. I think you could jump into the Vindicator and do all right with it, but I feel like there's some depth to it that we haven't really explored yet.
I think you're totally right about that. The thing with me for the Vindicator was immediately. So let's just talk about Vindicator at the start. It clicked right away. The Vindicator Greatsword, I loved. I thought it worked really well. I loved that skill too, where you spank out a massive triangle AoE in front of you. The 5 felt good. Everything about the Greatsword. I'm not saying it was strong or potent necessarily, but it felt good and immediately just worked for me. I don't know whether it's because it's a bit more simple or what. And then the Legend,
not too difficult.
The Legend kind of worked too, so I was just very quick to pick up and play. Did you do a lot of buildcraft with it, or
not with the Vindicator? The Vindicator is the one thing that I'm gonna have to say that I did not delve too far into. The other 2 I played with around a lot. The Vindicator, I probably played with it for about a half an hour to an hour.
Well, there's 2 big things I think for the Vindicator. All right, one is there's 3 big things I want to ask you about. First of all, what's your take on the dodge roll mechanic and how it could be augmented? What's your take there?
So it's definitely something to get used to playing the Vindicator. All 3 of them have different durations. Some of them are ridiculously long. So in PvP, it's you're gone for 3 seconds, and it's kind of interesting. But you're not going to use that one anyway because the energy cost is so high. I don't know. It's weird. It's also a little buggy. If you're watching someone do the dodge roll, you're they're janking up and down in the animation.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I don't know if that happens every time, but I know in PvP when I was playing against the Vindicators, it was I could see where they're going. They don't disappear from the thing like they're supposed to. I could see where they're going because the animation's all messed up, and it's
Shouldn't you be able to always follow the orange circle to know where they're gonna land?
You could do that too, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think you're right. It is weird. The dodge roll feels, I've got to say, for anyone who's wondering how this feels compared to Mirage and how this feels compared to Daredevil, I don't know whether I think it's better than Daredevil, but it definitely feels more distinct as its own skill and a transformative dodge than the Daredevil ones, right? Especially the DPS dodge, like you say, you're in the sky for so long. it is weird. It is very strange. In open world PvE, I was kind of treating it as an engage thing. It was you can airstrike to start off. You can close the gate. You find something out on the field, like a Hydra or something, and you can rush towards it while from the safetiness of the sky, and then slam in, and that's the beginning. That's kind of how I was treating it a lot of the time.
And I tested some things with it, like super speed doesn't work with it. Like you don't go faster with super speed or whatever. I don't think quickness affects it either, or maybe it does. I forget now.
You know what I did love with the build craft on the dodge rolls? I mean loved. I loved using like sigil of endurance, which is like get a ton of endurance whenever you score a kill. People might be interested. There's a sigil in the game, endurance. It should be like 100% of your endurance after a kill, and so that's really good on the Vindicator with the super long charge up dodge roll. But it's funny, it's so much to charge up. Turns out the sigil doesn't actually give you 100% dodge roll. It gives you like 60%, which I actually kind of like, because now it's like, you know, when you use that sigil normally, it's like if you score a double kill, well, you've overflowed and lost value, you know.
It would probably be 66%, right? Because it would usually give you 100 endurance. It's probably a flat amount. It's 100 endurance.
Yeah.
Endurance.
I think it probably is about 66. So now you won't overflow so much, is what I'm trying to get at, and it feels good to like. So I really liked that. I'm looking forward to playing a Vindicator that has me if it has me on different sigils and different runes and different gear. I think that's all going to be super cool.
So that is one thing that's a little worrying. Like, you need all that endurance generation if you're doing the damage jump, but for the healing jump, for example.
It's the reverse.
It's down to 50 endurance, and with the amount of endurance generation that's shoved into the builds right now for Vindicator, you have that up pretty damn often, even though it's like you only have one dodge, but it's a normal dodge. So I've heard of some ridiculously tanky Vindicator builds because of that.
Oh, because they can just dodge spam. That's interesting.
And it heals them and gives them barrier as well.
You know, one observation I had that I thought would be really cool is the DPS one that takes ages to charge and the animation lasts really long. I like the idea of the heal one having the super long cast time. And people might say, well, why? Because I like the idea of you jump into the sky. Well, it's the healer dodge. You're in the sky for a long time. Meanwhile, you're on Ventari tablet and you're manipulating the tablet around from below. So you're doing stuff while you're in the dodge. You're in the sky.
Is that a thing that... Can you do that?
I don't know. I didn't test it, but I think that was a cool idea, and that was something I thought of when I was in the sky. I was like, oh, I've got all this airtime in Vulnerable, but I can't use it in any way. And then I immediately thought, oh man, if I had a tablet, I could be spamming tablet skills down there while I'm in the sky. And I don't know, but that doesn't work because that's the damage dodge on a healer build, which would be a bit weird. But the boon extension dodge is like weird to me because I couldn't really. I guess if in a solo scenario, it didn't really click as very useful.
It gives might, right? The boon expansion dodge as well. So like you could be a might stacker, I suppose, but that's about all it would do because like you could extend boons with your dodge, but you'd only extend boons that are already on it, and if it can't provide those other boons to begin with, then
it is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Oh well, I wanted to ask you, that segues me quite nicely. How did you feel about the 3 lines? You know, like when I was playing the Harbinger, I really kind of appreciated the sense of like there being a Condi line and a power line and so on. As far as the traits are actually concerned, it's pretty bog standard, right? There's a healer line, there's a damage line, and the middle one isn't an endurance line, right? The endurance traits were all just in the middle on the master tier. But there's no like real identity to the middle line, is there? There's just a bit of boon extension on the dodge and.
Yeah, there's a endurance in an area when swapping legends. There's no
AoE endurance is quite cool. I always like the idea of having more of those in the game. In fact, I kind of like the idea of one. You know, the dodge that's boon extension. It'd be kind of cool if that dodge was endurance generation for your allies when you land. For
your allies, but not yourself. At least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe. That could be interesting. The traits are all right. There is no clear identity in the middle line, you're right. The one thing I want is there to be at least one trait, because there is a trait that gives you endurance when you swap legends or use alliance tactics, the F2 ability.
Right, yeah.
But there's no other things that really seem to change alliance tactics. And my main takeaway, it's not my main takeaway, but I'd say one thing about the Vindicator is that if you're not using the legendary alliance as your legend, the F2 ability kind of loses a lot of its functionality.
Yeah, it feels worse than Core Rev, right? Core Rev has a good F2 there. It gives you energy and stuff, and now it's like a really rubbish one. I totally agree with you. So that leads us really nicely into the alliance skills themselves too. How did you find swapping between some Victor and Arkham because for open world, and that's what I'm most interested in. I want to talk mostly about, that idea of playing these things when you get to Cantha and the general playtime. Arkham was much more fun than St. Victor, and I found myself more than anything else just trying to avoid St. Victor. Like the elite skill, sacrificing your own health.
That skill I think needs some changing, because it is not that great to begin with, even as a support skill. Like, the amount of healing it was doing was not that high compared to other things, and you'd be killing yourself at the same time and not being able to heal yourself. Yeah. So I don't know. I only played for like a half an hour to an hour, so I didn't really dive too deep into the ideas behind it. Like, maybe there's something to be said about wanting to get yourself low at the beginning of a fight to like give yourself a bunch of boons with the drop Saint Victor thing, but I don't know.
I have to say, I really like the urn as an idea of a skill, that you pick up the urn and you're damaging yourself and healing people. I really do like the urn as a skill when you're playing a healer in a party, and maybe there needs to be some efficacy changes too, whatever, that doesn't matter so much. I like it. It's just that when you're on your own in the open world, and that you the fact I have to pick up the urn to then cast another skill to finally get back to St. Victor's Spear. Yeah, I think that's what feels a bit.
So I think what you're talking about is just you're gonna have to start doing a special rotation when you're doing your own stuff. Like, it's something that we haven't really thought about yet because we're so early and it's just a quick beta. You haven't really been able to get your hands on it properly. But I think probably in open world, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be starting off in Arkham, using your skills, using your F2, using your skills again, swapping legends, doing stuff, coming back, and then swapping and pressing F2 again and getting your Arkham skills again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, you can obviously fiddle your way through it, but it just doesn't. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good.
I guess so.
But I didn't really. So that's the elite though. The other skills, I kind of thought the flip over thing sort of worked. I mean, I had reasonable fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the stun breaks with the flip overs is kind of nice because they have the cooldowns quite low for the stun breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I like the concept. Again, because I haven't played it enough, I can't tell you whether or not I feel like it is workable to like stick in Arkham because you have the ability to flip over your skills and use a ton of skills with it. Do you actually want to use all these skills? Probably not. And also, you won't have the energy to use all these skills. You're gonna have to. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're gonna have to swap legends regularly anyway, just to get your energy back.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's quite interesting is I was playing without legend swapping at all, and I was trying to get to grips with it and think about what all the skills were, because there's quite a lot to take on, immediately. And I was actually surprised that I was able to linger in my legends as much as I was, but once you do start spamming the buttons a little bit more, you can definitely feel that you have to swap. I have a question for you, right? So the flip over thing, we've both been pretty meh about it, I think. All right, it's okay. Yeah. My question to you is this. Everything about the Vindicator is exactly the same. All the skills are the same. Everything's the same. However, you lose the F2, and they implement it like your idea on a video last week, which is that it's two totally separate legends. Which one would feel a bit better to you?
So you would, if you wanted to, you could equip both legends and no other legends?
If you wanted, yeah, sure, why not? That's another thing. But just they're totally disconnected, and it's not a flip over thing anymore. So I can be Arkham on my heal build, or St. Victor on my heal build, or I can be Arkham on my damage build, and I don't have to deal with the flip over, and I get two legends. It's a double legend elite spec.
I don't think that's interesting enough as an elite spec. Like, all you get is that new dodge, and yeah, I think it's more interesting the way they built it this way.
Well, I think it could be more interesting, but it's not really that interesting. It's just a bit. Oh, okay.
I think it is more interesting. I think it's just right now I think people have to develop the way they use it first, and then if it feels too clunky because of certain cooldowns or whatever, then those cooldowns have to be addressed, and then it could feel very good to use.
Yeah. See, I was getting a sense of that as well with the flip overs, where it was like, if I really fancily wanted to like double cast an Archimedes ability or something, which was often the case, it was kind of annoying to just like, well, you got a cooldown to wrestle with anyway. So I don't know, like the fact that once it's flipped over, it's still on cooldown just felt kind of rough. So hey, all right, let's move on from Vindicator. I want to talk now about, well, which ones do you want to do? Why don't you pick, Boots? Bladesworn or Catalyst?
I'm good with either. I played those guys a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll go and pick one.
Okay, let's go Bladesworn.
Okay, Bladesworn. Man, there's so much to say about Blade. I have to say, Bladesworn to me definitely felt like the most complete package. Not just out of this beta, but of all 6 specs we've seen so far. It does feel, to me, like Bladesworn is like the most done, the most well thought out. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it. However, I would say that some of the decisions that were made are not decisions I agree with, even though it's well thought out.
Right, okay, so is it that you don't like the whole drag and slash idea because it's very easy
I don't mind that at all. I think the drag, like, it's a cool mechanic. It's a cool mechanic when you see it, you know? I see a lot of people, like, thinking, anyway, no, I think it's cool. I think it's cool, the Dragon Slash.
Well, where are you going with it? Okay, so that's it? You just think Bladesworn's cool? I mean...
It is cool. It's very cool.
Okay,
I like
so
Bladesworn a lot. No, the things I don't like so much is how much they took away from what a warrior is in order to give the Bladesworn to people.
Oh, wow.
So,
what do you mean by that?
Well, because warrior, basically its major benefit is that it has like a large array of weapons to choose from. It's versatile in that way, and you can build it in certain ways depending on how you like it. Now, the problem is with this is they, first of all, gave you only one weapon to use as your offhand weapon, and you have your Bladesworn. You have your Gunblade. So that's already a little bit limiting. But then on top of that, they made you not have burst skills on your offhand weapon.
Right, we actually had I didn't think about this, but we had a conversation about this, and you were saying, no, you got to have your burst skills. And I agreed with you. I thought, yeah, good point. But they did take them away.
They took them away too. And I understand it's a design decision because they wanted the Bladesworn to be all about the Gunblade, right? But
yeah, my immediate response to everything you're saying right now is that you're being unfair because it's not a profession, it's an elite spec. So it doesn't have to be wide. That's my immediate, as you're speaking, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I know. I say that's a valid criticism, and I think that's fine. I think that if they wanted it to be, this warrior is now a Gunblade warrior and nothing else, that's fine. Just to me, it feels like it's taking too much away from the identity of a warrior. Because, like, for example, Discipline line, where you get fast hands, it's like so important for so many other things. But for Bladesworn, not so important, because as a Bladesworn...
Well, hold on. I can turn that on his head, though. That's a perk to some warriors. They didn't want to rely on fast hands anymore. Well, look, you're not going to worry about fast hands as well.
Fine. I mean, you still can't... You still wouldn't have to rely on fast hands if you... you could give the bursts back to people on their offhand weapons and not take fast hands, because literally the way people are playing Bladesworns right now in the beta, or were playing it in the beta, is never ever switch off of a Gunblade. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit...
I didn't get that impression at all. Really?
Yeah.
Did you get that impression that people weren't swapping off?
Yeah.
So let's talk about pistol then. Pistol, you're not vibing on the pistol offhand?
The pistol's fine. It's a nice little weapon.
I loved it. I thought it was really cool. The interplay, the pistol offhand to me is one of those things where it felt like there was so much quality on the Bladesworn. You know, like the way that the two skills flowed together. The devs showed a little bit of on the stream we talked about before. And you know, the way that you sort of can unload the whole salvo at once. The animations felt crisp. I really like it. It fills a space on Warrior's kit that they didn't have before. It just felt really, really good. But are you saying it didn't feel good to swap back to?
Yeah, it felt like there was no reason as a Bladesworn to ever go... dropping your Gunblade and going to your other weapons was always a mistake.
Yeah, you may well be. I just want everyone to know this. Boots is probably right on this because he's played more Bladesworn than me. I got the impression that I would want to do it because one of my traits is like one of the minor traits is like an insane ferocity bump after an explosion, and I was trying to go back to my pistol to get the explosion so that then when I go back to Dragon Slashing or whatever, I've got all this crazy damage.
But
I
have
remember mousing
explosions
over
on your gun.
Yeah,
blade.
no, I know, but they're very, very long. They're like huge cooldowns, right? That was something I quite liked about the
Not
Bladesworn as well.
really.
It was high ammo, but huge. No, man, they are huge cooldowns on there. They were like 30-second plus cooldowns on weapon skills. But
high
when I
ammo
say cooldown
and
here,
then-
when I say cooldown here, I mean ammunition recharge, which
What-
obviously you can get back with the elite and stuff.
You
But
get
like,
back with the elite, and then on top of that, I don't know if you were playing with one of the very good traits, which is the third trait in Master Tier, that says when you use your last ammo, on
everything
anything,
chunks
everything
up, right?
recharges. Every
Yeah.
skill, not just your weapon skills. Every skill gets.
yeah,
cooldown
I
every
remember
spell.
mousing over that. I don't know how much I played with it, so maybe you're totally right about that. What were your takes on the traits as well then? Because again, I'm a little bit more out of my depth there.
I liked a lot of them actually. So that trait that I just talked about was really good. Also, the trait, the top one in Masters is nice. The one that gives you barrier on your last ammo skill. So that's nice if you want to be a little tanky kind of supporty role.
Yeah, I wanted to try that on a supporty thing. I know you don't share the barrier, but your own self-sustain while you spam shouts. I quite
Yeah.
liked the idea of.
The middle one there is not that great. It gives a little bit of damage when you use your last shell, and then some burning, but like you're never gonna build a Bladesworn as a Condi spec because there is no Condis on it otherwise.
Right.
So the burning is kind of just flavor, I guess. What else? Oh yeah, so the Grandmasters I think we should probably talk about. See the one that everybody's been using is the middle one because it is just so powerful.
Right, so remind me, because I'm definitely not going to remember this. What was the middle one exactly?
Dragon Slash becomes unblockable, ignores blindness, and stuns foes on hit.
Oh yeah, the completely crazy one. Yeah, and ArenaNet even default load out everyone onto that one.
Yeah, and
By
it's
default,
very good.
everyone put it on there.
It's very,
Yeah.
especially for PvP, it's very good.
Well, actually, Boots, I was thinking, I was expecting it to be nerfed in PvP, but for PvE, I thought it was really actually quite pleasant. Like, you can see how often you'd goddamn get a little blind or something. That's just the most aggravating thing in the world.
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
blinded before a big hit in PvE, and it was
you don't have
just
to worry
really,
about
really
it.
nice. Yeah.
So there's that. That one's very good. I enjoyed using the Daring Dragon, which says that you only have up to 5 charge level, but as soon as you use your Dragon trigger, you could you re-enter it right away.
Yeah,
if
and
you
you can
pay
spam.
10 cost. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can spam it over and over.
You can
again
do
if
like
you want.
a Yasuo style thing where you're like dashing around through a ton of targets. I like that.
I had a lot of fun with that, but my issue with it is that okay. So what I would do is, I would go into it, I would have a lot of flow on me, and then I would spam the second skill burst, right? The
Right.
one that makes you dash all the way through.
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good one. The only problem is if you hit any kind of terrain,
It messes up. I had that
yeah.
experience too, yeah.
you get like shot into the air, and then you because of the fact that this like Daring Dragon thing tries to recognize if you're moving or not moving, or like standing still properly at the end of a slash. If you're in the air, you're not going to go back into the Dragon Slash
right.
thing. So yeah, it messes up.
What
also
about the
the
top? What about the top Grandmaster trait?
it's a little boring. 8%
Well, what
heal.
was it?
It's 8% heal percentage on your Dragon Slash.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. So this is like I didn't get to play with that one. I didn't get to try that, but I figured.
I
in
don't think
PvE
anybody would try it, right? Like in PvE is the only place you like in PvP 8% heal on Dragon Slash. Your Dragon Slashes were only doing maximum like 5k damage in PvP if you were lucky.
Yeah. So it needs a bump in PvP, and
Oh, a huge! If it's only healing you in PvP, it needs a huge bump.
this is one of those things, Boots, where I kind of wish I could have all three, and I suppose that's a good sign. But I wish I could have all three and then use the dash Dragon Slash. So you're like weaving through enemies, stunning them, and healing as you go. I really like that idea, but obviously
So
it's a big
the one I had most fun with was the Daring Dragon one, which is the lower maximum charge, blah blah blah, do it over and over again. And I was using that in PvP, and it was a lot of fun. One change that would be nice is when you use your Dragon Slash right now, your weapon swap goes on cooldown.
Right, I found this really fiddly. The interaction of like being in Gunsaber and being in Dragon Slash mode of Gunsaber and the regular weapon swap. Like I couldn't get those rules stuck in my head, and I felt like it was.
honestly, it's just another reason why you would never switch to your offhand weapons.
I don't know. See, I'm wondering if that's just because I didn't play it enough. See, we're going to move to the Catalyst in a second, and I feel like with both of these two, I just never had my click moment where it just felt clunky, and I don't want to criticize it and say that these are clunky elite specs, because I feel like this is why I wanted to talk to you so much, Boots, because you put more time in. I wanted to know that clunkiness would go away.
It doesn't, well, especially with Daring Dragon, the clunkiness doesn't entirely go away.
Ah, right. And you're telling me you don't even like going... What I want is to feel like I'm using my offhand pistol, my regular... Or, a war horn and some supporty stuff or whatever. I want to be using my ammunition on my throw axe and stuff. And I want to be weaving in with my gun saber. Not just on... I want to be using it all. That's Guild Wars, But you're not giving me that, and it's upsetting me.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. I think that the clunkiness is there. I think they could definitely make tweaks to both, animations and, being able to stow the gun saber, for example, would be nice.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I couldn't stow, and that made me feel weird. It's such an arbitrary thing. I feel like I shouldn't talk about it, but people... I saw people upset that they couldn't skin the gun saber as well. Legitimately, I'm not playing this because I can't skin the gun saber. And to me, that's just not important. I would never put that against the Bladesworn, but it is important to some people. Do you think it's a keybind thing? Because I kept pressing weapon swap when what I meant to do was press F1.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I messed that up a lot.
That could help people. I think I don't think that's that important, but it's something people will get used to, I think.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things. I think there's not too much that they need to change, but there's definitely things that I'd like them to change that I don't know if they're actually going to do.
Okay, well, I just want to say for the record, I played more of the Vindicator and it clicked with me better. I loved the Vindicator, great sword, it clicked. However, I think the Bladesworn is by far the best looking elite spec that they've done. Really, it just felt so complete. It was nice to see trait interactions actually worked out in intelligent ways. It wasn't just a mess. The Virtuoso was especially bad with a lot of stuff. It worked really well.
I just want to say one thing, balance-wise, for PvE, like we said, 57k on the golem. All they gotta do, because almost 90% of that damage comes from the dragon trigger. All they gotta do is nerf the damage on that by 25%, and it's back in line with what it should be.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
nobody's gonna notice if your dragon trigger in PvE does 25% less damage. It's still gonna be over 200k.
Oh yeah, I gotta say the crunch of whacking a Hydra or something and killing it in almost one felt really good. You guys should definitely try it out. It is something that I haven't really got out of the existing 18 elite specs as well, which I think is quite nice. So anyway, I rate it higher. I just wanted to know before we move to the Catalyst, do you rate the Bladesworn higher than the Vindicator? Is it so far your favorite?
Well, in terms of enjoying to play it, yeah, I'd say so. I enjoyed playing the Bladesworn a lot.
Okay.
I could enjoy it more in the future, I think, if they make some tweaks.
All right, then.
Sorry, one last thing. Buff the blade, the dragon slashes in PvP.
Oh yeah, is it really weak there? I was excited to hear you played it there.
A Vindicator dodge can do 9k damage, and the Bladesworn Dragon Slash that you have to charge for 5 seconds can do 6k damage.
Well, I actually think it would be quite cunning for them to undertune it. Obviously, it's going to be overtuned or undertuned. I like the idea that they've undertuned it for PvP, just so that people know... that they know, okay, this thing is useless if it doesn't get to Dragon Slash. So you learn that in a beta, and then they bump it up. The devs already know, but they need the community to know.
Yeah.
So now they bump up. All right, let's move to the Catalyst and our thoughts here. So to me, I spent a lot more time with the Catalyst than the Bladesworn, but still, I had this thing, Boots, where I feel like I didn't put enough time in, because there was a certain clunkiness to it that I never quite wrestled with. So I think there's something really beautiful going on with the Catalyst.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your clunkiness, is it because you only used hammer with the Catalyst?
Well, yeah, okay. So I used exclusively the new toys.
Okay.
I didn't go... Now, I know that there's some interesting synergies and combos with the other weapons. Scepter in particular, a lot of people were saying was very good, and I can see the idea with the projectile finishes. Scepter might be... I never tried that. I'm talking purely about hammer here. So, just so that everyone knows, the Catalyst, something that will not have come through on the streams that we watched and the press before this. Catalyst has actually a really cool idea where one of its minor traits is you get auras on combo finishes, and then its new mechanic is giving you like this new field to play with. So it's got this really rich thing where it's all about comboing. Like, and it builds into itself through comboing, which is auras, which is other benefits. There's a whole trait line to just getting auras. So it's got, at its core, a really cool symbiotic thing going on, which is very, very fun to play with. And the idea of an elite spec that is just super combo field oriented, that is the meat and potatoes of the Catalyst. And I think it's really exciting, but it's very tightly built together. So if one part of that chain feels a bit weak or a bit lackluster or a bit clunky, the whole thing falls apart. And unfortunately, the energy mechanic and moving the orb and summoning the orb, that to me it felt clunky the whole time. I couldn't get it. And because I couldn't get that, it kind of killed the fun of all the combos and getting all the auras and everything else. So the whole thing ended up falling flat, specifically because I just couldn't quite get the orb where I wanted it to be, when I wanted it to be there, and the amount of energy I needed. And it just kind of... it didn't work for me in the end. It just didn't work, and
yeah, I
didn't have fun on it. So that's my opening thing with the Catalyst. I just didn't have fun.
So I think so this is my full takeaway from the Catalyst.
Let's talk about Hammer first, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I wanted to say, that the Catalyst brings 20 new skills because it has a two-handed weapon. Straight up, right? Like a new weapon with 5 skills in each attunement. That's 20 new skills. And
the 5 utilities.
And the 5 utilities. I think that the amount of design that needed to go into bringing all of that already kind of slowed down the design of other things to do with the Catalyst.
Well, I want to be careful here, Boots. I get what you're saying, but I just want to be a little bit careful. One thing I'm very sensitive of, and I think it's a mistake I might be making, and I wouldn't want to see you make the same mistake.
Okay.
I don't want to criticize... You just said there's 20 new skills, there's all those new utilities. There's a little voice in my head that's constantly saying, this isn't clunky, this isn't bad, it's just this is a ton of skills to learn.
It's a ton of
skills. It's a brick
of
wall of stuff to learn. So I was playing the Catalyst with a vague feeling of frustration the whole time, and I don't know whether that's really the Catalyst's fault or the fact that I've just been dumped with a brick wall of skills, and there's some frustration that will come from that.
There's definitely an element of that, I'm saying. I think there's an element of that to the Hammer. So I don't want to say that the Hammer is way too clunky and all of the animations are too long and it just doesn't work. I don't think that's the case.
You see, what I want to hear from you, Boots, is that you played enough to be confident you got through that clunk. Do you know what I mean?
No, I cannot say that. But I can tell you what does feel clunky. I do think you're right about the well, quote unquote. I think it needs a couple of things. Number one, the fact that when you place it down, the only thing you can do with it is recall it because you can't move it. That's,
yeah, right. You can't.
That's a little bit rough in every single play style, right? Like in PvP, I mean, the best you could do is put it on a point, I guess, and then defend that point, kind of. But in PvE, things move out of the stuff all the time,
or they die, and then it's like, okay, it's the next pack. Yeah.
But the recall, the problem is the recall is too punishing. It goes on 15-second cooldown when you recall your Jade Sphere every time.
Yeah.
And you lose all your energy on top of that.
Yeah, you got an energy mechanic and this huge cooldown.
Yeah.
Oh, and can I add another thing that's clunky about it? That I experienced on Hammer mostly. Now, maybe this isn't true on the other weapon sets, I imagine not. But there's a lot of movement on the Hammer. So it's like you want to be in the well for like air attunement Hammer. You want to be in that to be getting the quickness. But if you dare to use your leap combo thing, I think that was you get launched out of it. And it's like, it's annoying. It's frustrating.
I don't think that one's a combo, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's the 5 that's the combo on that one. Basically, you can just put the orb up and use a lot of the skill 5s, and you get blasts, and there's like a leap on water.
So the well is cool-ish, and I think it's basically the mechanic of the Catalyst. It's supposed to be anyway, because when you you don't have to use the hammer, right? You could use other weapons, and in some cases,
still have the orb. Yeah.
And you'd still have the orb. So that is technically the Catalyst mechanic, is the Jade Sphere. But the problem is it's overpowered by the fact that there's so much from the hammer that it makes it seem like that's supposed to be the mechanic of the class, and also that one trait that says you get auras in combo fields. When you make a combo, you get an aura. So that one trait, basically, and it's just a minor trait. It basically like is the only thing, in my opinion, that's really interesting about the catalyst. And it's the thing that you want to build into.
So, what I want to say, by the way, is you just pointed out the 15-second cooldown. I really don't think it'd be too bad if they just lightened up a bit on moving the orb around and creating the wells. I think if they just got relaxed a little bit, the whole thing would start flowing quite well.
Probably.
What I really like the idea of was it like sand shades on the Scourge. Like if they copy pasted the way that works, it's just a recharging ammo skill with 3 diamonds on it or whatever. You know, if you're using like Greater Sand Savant. I know that that's not creative or whatever, but I'm just saying the actual user experience I would have had out of the Catalyst would have been much higher if they had just lazily copy-pasted what they'd already figured out with the Scourge. I think it would have been much higher. Oh, I do want to... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, here are some ideas of what you could do to help with the well. Number 1 is just straight up, if you recall the sphere... it doesn't go on full cooldown. It only goes on the amount of cooldown left over from when you first deployed the sphere.
Yeah.
And also, instead of losing all your energy, you only lose a portion of it.
Yep.
Or some people were suggesting have it like an actual, gyro well, where the sphere goes around with you, because, I mean, your hammer is basically a melee weapon, even though some of it is a little bit ranged.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have it follow around with you. I don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that it's kind of funny, there's another thing that I really do like about the orb and the well, and it's something I sort of wish was just a core Ellie interaction now that I've seen it going, and it's when you're fighting, the whole thing is asking you to be inside the well, but you know what I really liked? I liked being standing away from the well, and then watching it in the distance when I change attunement and seeing it dynamically change what it's doing far away. That's a cool experience. Like, imagine if, like, Glyph of Elementals, when you summon the Elite Elemental, imagine if every time you attunement swapped, it dynamically changed. It was icy and then it was on fire. And like, there's something really fun about that visually, at the very least, and it just felt really new and cool. And I sort of feel like this is sort of more of a Weaver kind of thing, the element dancing is really the Weaver's theme or identity, but Catalyst is now doing something. But I like that side of it too, so just the more that I could be ranged with it, or even having more, going back to the Sandshade thing, if I can have multiple up at once and then one attunement swap, you watch all of them light on fire or all of them freeze up. I think that's cool, that's like some actual totemy kind of gameplay. But we don't get to do any of that, and it's like, I don't know, it's just, and that kind of, if you have anything else you want to say about the orb, stop me now.
No, I'm good.
But so this kind of leads me into the other thing about the Catalyst, right? When with the mention of the identity with the Weaver thing. Even for all of this, mechanically, I like the idea of a very combo field centric profession, elite spec. I like that. I think that's really good. I think you're right that's very, very cool mechanically. But in terms of how it's all packaged up as a theme and a unifying idea and something flavorful and cool, the Catalyst is just not doing it for me. I was just going to say, that's why people have been playing Catalyst with not the hammer. And I think it's because, although the hammer has all these new skills, I think it only has one combo finisher on each attunement. Yep. And
they're not on short cooldowns, I don't think. Like, you have a few blasts on the hammer, and I think there's like a leap.
Oh, speaking of, I got to sidetrack you. I got to know. Speaking of cooldowns, what did you make of the Elite?
I didn't really care for the Elite that much.
Oh, God, I hate the Elite. I hate the Elite. I already talked a bit badly about it in a previous video. I want the internet to know I hate the Elite. When I looked at a paper on that stream, I was thinking there's no way that's very good. I think I said it in a video. And some people said, "Oh no, WP, you've recommended sigils on Ellie before that reduce weapon skill cooldowns, and maybe it'll be good." It's not good. All right, it's really, it needs very, very different tuning. And even if it's tuned really well, I just don't see it being that flavorful. It's like a crappy, weird form of Alacrity. None of the utilities did anything for me, and I think it's not a surprise that neither of us have talked about them in this conversation yet. I mean, do you have anything of note about the utilities?
Well, so some of the utilities, when I looked at them at first, okay, so beyond the combo field, what the combo field finisher aura thing does, it gives you a little bit of that elemental empowerment, right? Yeah. And elemental empowerment gives you
all stats.
a percent boost to all stats, and that's really cool. I personally find just percent boosts to things a little bit boring overall, but it does allow you to do some interesting things if you build into it, right? So for the traits, for example, I think like 5 of the traits are all just percent boosts to things. So for me, the traits are a little bit boring altogether, except for that one trait. But you got the percent boost, right? Because the elemental empowerment, and then you have 2 augments, one that gives 15% extra damage, and one that gives extra strikes, right? And I was like, ooh, this could be powerful. Right. But for some reason, I think it's because they have cast times on them, and then also the fact that they don't, like, you have to, in order to get the full benefit from them, you have to cast them when you're in the attunement with a well. Mm-hmm. It just feels way too limiting. Like they don't feel that great to use. And I think what could help is if you didn't have to cast it while you're in that attunement next to your well, but you get the benefit if you eventually get it during the duration of the effect,
I think you're right about that, but again, it's two things. There's two halves, though, isn't it? And again, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier. It's like if the well itself just had more quality of life and was easier to manipulate and do things with, then that also helps the. I'm not saying exclusive. I like your ideas for the utilities as well.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do with that 15% is like, you have the glyph of power or whatever it's called, the glyph of elements that like gives you 25% extra damage on each of your next certain number of hits, and then have like automatic crits, and just do my old one-shot Ellie again as a core Ellie with all this extra stuff, extra power with 20% across the board as well. I feel like you could do a lot of damage with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a little too clunky, I think.
Well, that's ridiculously gimmicky, I think. I don't
yeah, of course.
I don't knock the catalyst for that or whatever. But speaking of gimmicks, I think there is a cool gimmick. I didn't play this, but retaliation's not in the game anymore. And so when you're in Ellie in World vs. World, meteor showering a choke point, Aegis is really the thing that's annoying to you. But now you can use that utility in the Firewell to be unblockable meteor shower. Now that I think is pretty cool. So that was kind of the gimmick I was thinking of, along the same lines of your thing there. But it doesn't really help for regular PvE too much.
The Earth Augment's very good, I think. Blocks attacks for 3 seconds and gives you barrier as well if you're in the Earth Sphere.
I don't know. I think we can talk about efficacy, right? Some of them will feel strong, some will feel weak. But generally speaking, even if they were all strong feeling,
so
they
I think you're
feel
right,
different to the other stuff so far to me.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But I was going to say, I think you're right in that possibly one of the reasons they don't feel that great right now and a little bit too limiting is because we don't have that much time with it yet. And like these augments in particular are just another thing tacked on top of the whole Catalyst build, is that it's like another element where you have to plan ahead and be comfortable and know the things you're using and the things you're doing. Like you have to like say,
well,
okay.
This is why I asked you, but you're beyond that though, aren't you? You're beyond that point. You do know what you're doing on it.
Not really. I mean, I played like 4 hours with it. That's not nearly enough to get comfortable.
Oh, okay, so you do feel like you're still in the clunky learning stage. You do feel like you're still.
Yeah, I think so. I think Elementalist is always, one of the more complicated things to get into, but then when you get it, it's not that bad. And I think there's a lot of planning involved in some of the aspects of the Catalyst.
Well, I'm curious to see what they do now. I think I've been quite negative about the Catalyst here. Even you're a bit lukewarm about it. One thing I do want to remind everyone that watching this, that I am trying to keep in my head is these are very early betas, and I'm not just trying to like make excuses for the studio or whatever here, but when I look at POF and the betas that we got, how late in the day those elite specs were given to us, it was very late in the day. They were very, very complete at that point already before they even showed them to us. When it comes to Heart of Thorns, it was also very late in the day. However, some of the earlier stuff we got to look at then underwent dramatic changes. Like Rev never even had weapon swap before.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, you know, when I look at this, and from the previous beta, I think the Virtuoso was one that had a lot of clunkiness and just straight up bugs. I do kind of think, well, look, we are still half a year out from the X-Pack, and this is actually the earliest we've seen some of these things. So they might go under...
These are true betas, in my opinion.
Yeah, these are real betas. Exactly. You phrased that perfectly. And I actually think, try to remember what we're talking about here today and what you've seen in the footage and as you've played, because I wouldn't be surprised to see significant changes because they do have the time for it, and so you know I'm generally pretty much at ease with what I played there. It already
I would say that actually Catalyst, even though I'm not like I'm giving a lot of criticisms, I feel like it has a lot of potential. You know, I think like it could be quite good. I like the well, we talked about it being a little clunky, but we didn't talk about the potential it has. It has an entire trait line that's just for boon buffing, and it could fill some interesting roles that way, but just right now because it's so clunky, it's not that easy.
I got to disagree with you there. One thing I would, despite everything I just said, all right, to be a downer again, I don't care about boon buffing anymore. I've had that fill on the Tempest. One thing that I can't get away with, and I don't know how much they'll be able to fix this over the next 6 months, is just at its heart, the Catalyst has an interesting mechanical idea, the combo field thing. But the rest of it is just like, it's not a cohesive package to me. It's not on a fun fantasy. It's not giving me like, you know, a new attunement. It's not taking an attunement away. It's not done anything really great. It feels like Weaver and Tempest mushed together, and I don't have too much sympathy for that, you know? Oh, well, I got a bit of quickness now. Great.
But that's it, though. The quickness is important, man. Like, you say you had enough of boon buffing because you play Tempest, but the reason why a lot of people don't like people bringing Tempest on everything is because the boons that you get from it.
When did you become so raid composition minded? It's a tiny fraction of the game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter very much. And also
it doesn't matter. So like, yeah, why does a Firebrand even have quickness then? Like, just take it off. It doesn't matter.
Well, you use it for yourself. Firebrand has a minor trait that makes quickness really valuable and fun, even in the open world. Also, it can maintain it.
Quickness is valuable and fun no matter what.
It can but the Catalyst isn't viable and fun to really play with that quickness. It's annoying as hell to stay in the airfield. I mean, it literally would mean camping in the air.
That's literally what I said. I said it has potential as a boon buffer because of the quickness and different boons you get in it, but it needs to be less clunky for the well to work properly.
No, I'm not vibing on it, man. I'm not vibing. You can't just slap. But what I view that is it's a mess thematically and stylistically, but they've slapped quickness on it, so it's good. No, that's not enough. It's not good enough.
I mean, that's what hurt. All right, fine.
Yeah, no, you're right. Say it. That's Harbinger to a degree as well. I completely agree. So,
and actually, that's one of the criticisms I'm gonna say I have about a lot of the animations on all of the things we have here in these elite specs, is that a lot of the clunkiness we feel, not all of it obviously, but a lot of the clunkiness we feel is because it feels like a lot of the animations were designed, especially with the hammer skills, were designed for you to have quickness.
Oh, really? I didn't get that sense. You don't think they'd do that, do you? I don't think they'd do that. That would be crazy, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
But that would explain why it feels a bit iffy in the open world. I mean, it's a theory. It's a theory. Well, we've rambled way too long about the Catalyst there, guys. As always, I said to Boots at the start, we'll do a 20-minute video. It's been basically an hour. I don't know how much will get cut out. But thanks so much, Boots. We've got to have another talk. I wonder in what way... Do you know when the next beta is? They're probably just going to reveal the next 3 now, and then it'll be another beta on a whole different...
They put out a schedule a while back. I think the next one is in October, mid-October-ish.
Oh, wow. Which you might think is ages away, guys, but not really. So, plenty more to talk about. And, man, I'm going to have to remember this very carefully, because I do think the Catalyst especially will be quite different next time. And we'll see. So thank you guys. Let us know what you think down below. There's obviously a lot to discuss, and this is one of those times where honestly I have no doubt at all that there are people in the comments who played more of any one of these three than me, and probably have some interesting insights, things that you liked, things that you didn't like. Let us know what you think, and thanks for coming on very much, Boots.
My pleasure.
Okay guys, we will see you on the next one very soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.